Passionate DJ Podcast, where it's all about becoming a better DJ through passion and purpose. And now, your host, David Michael.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm David Michael from the Passionate DJ Podcast. Now, episode 100 was recorded live and on video. For those of you who are listening to the podcast through the normal podcast feed on your smartphones and so on, we tried to make sure that most of the episode would translate well into an audio-only format. But if you'd like to watch the replay of the video, you may do so at passionatedj.com/100. Now, before we get started, I need to briefly apologize to Kilma and Joe Pardo. They were both supposed to join us for the show. Now, during the stream, I say something about Kilma having audio problems, and it turns out the problem was on our end the whole time. So that's entirely my bad. I'm so sorry that the two of you couldn't join us. But I do want to thank you guys personally for hanging out in the chat room while we recorded and kind of interacting with the other listeners. I'm sure they really appreciated that. And, you know, the overall show was a smashing success. We had a whole lot of fun. We made several exciting announcements. We caught up with some previous guests from the show, including Mr. Shifter, Mike Donovan, and John Chappell. We took several audience polls, and we wrapped things up with a really fun Q&A session at the end for you guys that were in the chat. These guests were awesome, from the pre-show all the way to the dinner that we had afterwards, and I really think that you're going to enjoy what they have to say. One last thing. The recording starts a bit abruptly. At the beginning, we had no sound for a minute or two, which kind of threw me off guard for a second. So I apologize in advance for the initial awkwardness, but hey, such is the nature of live shows. It's happened to me before while DJing, and I'm sure it'll happen again, but the show must go on. So overall, we had an awesome time. We had a great 2-hour conversation, and we had a really good time just interacting with you dedicated listeners who joined us in the chat room and watched us live. So thank you guys so much for 100 episodes of the Passionate DJ Podcast, and here's to the next 100, where we will continue becoming better DJs together through passion and purpose. And now I present to you the episode 100 live show.
Oh, there we go. Was that you?
Let's try that again.
All
This
right.
is Passionate DJ Podcast, episode 100 live.
Yay!
All right, so obviously this is the Passionate DJ Podcast. We are a weekly talk show dedicated to the art and science of mixing music. And together we're becoming better DJs through passion and purpose with over 150,000 downloads now, believe it or not. So I'm going to redo the intro here because I royally screwed that up. So to my left, we've got Mr. Trip Turlington
What's up?
with a whole water-cooled rig for his leg.
Yep. You know, tore that ACL, man. Just got to keep the swelling down.
And to my right, we have Mr. Tony DeCero.
What's up? What's up?
Fresh from the three-dimensional Downlink Diesel Boy show.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear us?
Uh-huh.
You hear-
Yeah, there it is.
All right, cool. Thank you for joining us for our first live web stream. This is amateur hour. We're just figuring it out as we go. So, okay. Is Kilma in the room?
Yes, she is, David.
Hi, Kilma. Hopefully we can talk to you here in just a minute. I don't know if her sound's working or not, but we're going to have a whole panel of special guests. We've got several people here in the room. Let's try to bring Kilma on and see if that's working. Can you hear us, Kilma? Okay, while we're waiting for that, let's go ahead and do our first poll. What's the first poll?
All right.
We want to ask some questions to you guys and gather some info. Yeah, Mo's
Yes,
here.
yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, don't mind me, guys. I'm just here doing all the heavy lifting. So if you guys take a look at the question portion at the bottom, there are several polls listed, the first one of which being, which should our next Pick 3 episode be? We're going to let you guys pick that out. So if you guys can hook us up and give us some ideas, we would be more than happy to let you dig into our crates.
Yeah, so for those of you who are not familiar, the Pick 3 series is where we all, the hosts, each pick 3 different tracks under some theme. So we did a hip-hop one, we did a couple different variants of that, favorites, you know, tracks that are important to us for some reason. And we just finished Mo's Crate Invasion version, which is where we basically
throw us under the bus and make them answer to whatever we randomly pick out of their crate. So now that we've done all those, we're ready to get back to the normal format, and we want you guys to pick out what kind we do. What are the options?
So what we have listed here for your choices are the guilty pleasures or cheesy tracks. Those are kind of
Oh,
self-explanatory.
that'd be fun.
Top 40. But I guess maybe that would be top 40 relative to us, because I don't listen to the radio anymore. So B-sides, that's a little bit more challenging because most people don't actually buy albums anymore. But I would kind of categorize that as one of those tracks that is on the album, but probably didn't get a lot of play because of the fact that there were one or two other tracks that got predominant play.
It's like pop
on the
songs,
radio.
but B-sides of pop artists.
And lastly, we have tracks you have no idea that I listen to. And that could be pretty
so
big.
off the beaten path stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Totally.
All right, if Kilma's having trouble getting her sound working, let's go ahead and introduce our panel here. Mr. Mike Donovan.
Camera right here.
Right here. Right here. There you are. How you doing, my friend?
Good.
Welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you are not only a DJ, but you've gotten really involved in the promotional aspects of, especially with Deep House, and we talked about volume the last time you were on. Can you give us just the elevator pitch of what volume is to remind our listeners?
Volume Deep is just a deep house, basically a house series, but I've tried to focus on deep house. But it's about every 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, typically on a Friday. Bring in a headliner house DJ and bring in some regionals and locals, but it's just a deep house series that's been about 2.5 years now.
Awesome.
Yep.
Mr. John Chappell?
This guy. Hey. Camera's there.
Okay. Hey, guys.
Who are you?
I'm just a local promoter and DJ, and I don't really play out much anymore. So
You don't play out. So where are some of the places you have played out?
oh well, you want me to list them here? Okay.
Oh, you've got notes.
Don't say just, because you're a staple of the scene here.
Well, I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. I still run an EDM weekly up at Therapy. Let me just go ahead and list these right here.
Sure, yeah.
All right. I've played a service elevator in an abandoned refrigerator warehouse.
John wrote his whole resume.
I'm actually doing a Midwest tour of every, I think, nine or 10 storage closets in every Econo Lodge. And I played a really good show with Mike here in the walk-in closet in the guest room of my stepdad's house.
Nice,
So
nice.
he wasn't happy about that. A nonfiction section of a feminist bookstore. The basement employee lounge at the VA Center, and the deep end of an empty pool at the Miami Valley Rec Center. So
Busy schedule.
Yeah, it's I'm all around.
We appreciate your dedication for bringing your entire resume with you. That's amazing.
How did you even find time to meet us here, man?
I took a
Wow.
break
I
from,
thought
the employee restroom at the Marriott.
Wow.
So.
Mo is our resident mobile DJ, but I think you've got him beat.
Yeah, but John's way more places than I possibly would want to go.
And then to his
Gross.
right, we have
How do I follow that?
Mr. Shifter. Should I introduce you as Mr. Shifter?
If you would like.
I would like.
I'm Jack, aka Mr. Shifter. Long time ago, I was Shapeshifter in the late 90s. Then I changed my name because there was a drum and bass outfit that took the name and got really, really big.
Right.
I was like, God damn it. So changed the name to avoid any confusion. I've been under that name for the past, 15 years or so.
And so you joined us for our Drum and Bass 101 episode.
Correct.
Geez, it's been a while now.
It has
Maybe a
been a
year
while.
ago.
Yeah, that was fun.
And that was a lot of fun. We got a lot of positive feedback from that. A lot of people really enjoy those super, dig in and get nerdy kinds of episodes.
Yeah, I did my best. That was a really good time. I like talking about drum and bass.
Yeah, and so you've kind of you've always been we were talking before the show, done multiple different genres and formats as a
Yeah.
DJ,
Yeah.
and most recently you've kind of created a house moniker. What's the story with
Yeah,
that?
I don't know. In the mid 2000s, I was DJing dance rock and block house and stuff. I've always been into everything. That was actually the reason why I chose the name Shapeshifter in the first place, just because, in the mid 90s I was listening to Ministry and Bass Effects and just like every disparate kind of music you could think of. And so when it came to DJing, I always wanted to try to do as much as I could, but in the early days with vinyl, it was just too expensive to do that.
We've had a couple people write in pretty recently, actually, talking about exactly that. Like, should I put everything under one umbrella, or should I spread it out? What made you decide to break that off, and are you still pursuing that?
It's tough because, I don't want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. But I also get really bored when I listen to only one kind of music.
Okay.
So on different days, I have different opinions on the whole thing. I go through different phases where I get really, really into house and techno for a while, and then I either get burnt out or I just need something new. So I kind of am always shifting back and forth between, my aliases or however you want to put it. Are you all good?
I'm sorry, I don't know what that means.
Okay.
So why house specifically? If you're kind of multi-format, why did you pick that, and why make it its own name?
When I DJ non-drum and bass stuff, it's usually a mixture between house and techno. I mean, one of the main reasons is because in 2017, drum and bass, the market is growing more and more niche. So it gets really frustrating to be buying a ton of records and writing music and having no outlet for it locally. Okay. But
you've kind of branded Mr. Shifter around those sounds.
Yeah. So I was a drum and bass DJ for most of my quote unquote DJ career. So I kind of wanted to attach that name to my drum and bass output. And there was some confusion when I would play house events, or if people would see me on a flyer or lineup, they weren't sure what I was playing, and it got kind of weird. So I'm if I'm going to be playing house or techno, I just would rather perform under a different name to eliminate any confusion. I also want to produce some house and techno on the side if I can. So that would just be a way for me to draw a line between the two things. So if you see a certain name, you know what to expect.
Yeah.
Trip,
do you want to speak to that? Because you've got a couple of different names going and have over the years too for similar reasons. Can you relate to what Jack's saying there, or did you have a different approach there?
That's exactly what happened with me. It was, Digital Psychosis is where I started, and for the very beginning, it was booty house and house music, and then I found trance and and progressive, and that's where I stuck for quite a few years. But then as I started to wane out of that, and then start getting into more tech house and techno, and more tribally types of sounds and stuff like that, and even dabbling into break beats and stuff. But what I was going to play just kind of depended on who booked me, what the night was about, where I fell in the lineup, and all of that stuff. So it was but Digital Psychosis was still on the flyer. So people were coming to see me, but yeah, I got the same thing. What are you going to play? Oh. Or I would still be getting in 2002, play Silence. Right. Well, no, I'm here to play drum and bass tonight.
Right.
What's that? Right. Well, it's because, John had just said that he always books me as Trip Turlington. And that's because I think it was around 2005 or 6, I retired the name Digital Psychosis and then went strictly Trip Turlington. But then as I started getting back into production, then I've got, a bunch of folders that have different monikers that, I do different projects under. In other words, I have a really bad multiple personality disorder. Just kidding. But, So no, I totally relate to that. Now, as far as playing out, most of the time it's still just Trip Turlington. But recently I've been telling people, if you want to book me for tech house or techno or progressive, something like that, then book me back under the Digital Psychosis name. So.
Okay.
Yeah. And just one thing I want to touch on too,
yeah.
When certain people would see me out DJing house or techno, I think some people got the impression that I was how do I word it?
Selling out kind of thing.
And I'm just I love any music that I DJ. I totally stand behind it, and I love. I would never, just jump on a bandwagon just to get a gig or something like that. But like I said, in 2017 and Columbus, Ohio, the drum and bass market,
Yeah.
Right.
and not in South London. So it's extremely limited. So I have a lot more opportunities to play worthwhile gigs when I'm DJing house or techno. And it's just a lot more rewarding in that sense. But I'd say like my production focus is like 90% on drum and bass. So
it's too bad that we Kilma can't get her sound input working, because she went through this almost the same exact thing, but her approach was she was a drum and bass DJ and then stopped it entirely and like reinvented herself as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe she can submit something to tell us why she took that approach instead of splitting off.
Yeah, there's no one right way to do it. Everyone's different. Everyone has different tastes.
Right.
But it's just kind of like what has worked for me, and I don't know, keeps me happy.
Everything okay over there, Mo? We got people chatting in the room.
No, it's kind of ironic because Kilma just literally typed what you
Did
guys
she?
were saying right now. She said it's interesting hearing D&B and then house and then techno, considering that she rebranded herself in that same similar fashion. So
It's another thing too, just really quickly. It's kind of nice to have that flexibility too, if you can play different types of music. Because sometimes you show up to a venue, and it's just circumstances. Or when I played for you in Dayton, I had it in mind that I was going to play drum and bass, but it was really, really early in the night, and I was worried that I was just going to like completely like kill the room, with just going way too hard at 9 o'clock when people are just kind of like shifting into the venue. So in a lot of ways, it's nice to have that flexibility to play different styles of music. So.
Kind of speaking to this shifting around of branding and approaches, Mike, you've recently kind of, I wouldn't say rebranded Volume, but kind of made some changes to the way you run it. What was the motivation behind that, and is it working?
It's kind of hard to say. Like, I guess the reason why I did it was just kind of timing. Like, gosh, it's kind of a tricky question. I think I wanted to simplify it just a little more. Like, I was doing a lot the artist profiles, which I still want to incorporate, but I think I just wanted to simplify it a little bit more. I don't think it needed to be Volume Deep House Fridays. I just needed to take it to Volume Deep. That's the hashtag. That's what people kind of refer to it as. I kind of just wanted to just strip it down to the bare bones of it, and really just wanted to simplify.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was complicated about it? Was it the approach and the whole mechanics of it, or are you talking about like from a branding perspective?
I think. Well, I think I kind of forced myself into Fridays first of all.
Fair
Correct.
enough.
But I mean, I think people were. I mean, the Todd Terry night, that wasn't a deep house night. I mean, that was just classic house night. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
I think I can get away with calling it Volume Deep, and still just kind of have it housey, jacking.
I see. Okay.
Just like that.
Yep.
Just as opposed to calling it Volume Deep House Fridays.
So he pigeoned his hole.
Right. Yeah, he totally pigeoned his hole.
Yeah.
No.
But I also had taken. I had to cancel the Roy Davis Jr. show and had taken like 6 months off, and I kind of thought it'd be good to just kind of come out with kind of a refresher, kind of freshen it up a little bit. But I just was kind of going for a simplification of it.
And by doing so, that kind of loosens your platform up a little bit. So, like, by just saying Volume Deep instead of, being Deep House and Friday. So now you can go Saturday night or Wednesday night or whatever night you want, and you can still go deep, with Tech House or Techno or House or whatever, obviously,
especially because there's a preconceived notion about a particular name of a style. Like when somebody, my version of Deep House is different than your guys' version of Deep House, probably.
Yeah, and I mean, first and foremost, I mean, I really love Deep House. We've talked about it, the sophistication of it, the warmth of it, all that stuff. But just a lot of the acts I've brought out. I mean, even the next Volume Deep is Friday, September 15th with Gene Ferris. It's really kind of hard to say
it's gonna be
he's
good.
A Deep House. Right. But he's got so much of his library is Deep House, but he can get techie. He can get dark. It's like, let's just do this and kind of not leave it up to, hey, I thought this was a deep house night. Well, it is, but it isn't. There's so much more to it than that.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it. And I just kind of wanted to
wiggle room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I just wanted to do a little less graphics. Like it was just getting hard. it was getting hard. Like to
The graphics just, I mean, I don't want to say they make the show because they don't, but they've become such a part of it.
Yeah, like I didn't do for the Brett Johnson show, which is another guy that was, if you were at that show, he was so techie that night. Like there was so much acid and tech. There was like so much techno and house, and he was beautiful. But
and you wouldn't want to bump that out because it's deep house night.
But even leading up to that, I didn't do the 2 weeks away graphics, 4 weeks away, and someone that night was like, "Hey, I was kind of looking forward to the 4 weeks away graphics," and I'm like, "Oh well, maybe I need to get back to doing that." But yeah, I think I wanted to simplify it, but who knows? Maybe I've made things more complicated because people keep asking me about it. So,
so Tony and Billy with Three Dimensional, they kind of have branded around this multi-genre big show kind of thing that they've got going on, and you've got the niche deep dance music thing going on, and then John, you've got EDM Tuesday, which is like, is it fair to say almost intentionally devoid of branding, right? Because it's kind of an open format.
Actually, yeah, specifically. Like I told Tony a long time ago when I did EDM Tuesday, like I specifically didn't want to flyer it. I wanted it all to be word of mouth. I didn't want to charge. It was just... Actually, I would say that like out of the three of us like emerging and stuff, like we all have very specific models that not only don't interfere with each other, but it actually works in tandem with each other.
Yeah.
I do the weeklies for the local DJs to like get out of your basement, get into the club.
A lot of DJs are discovered at your night.
Right.
Locally.
Yeah, and then Mike does like these regionals that nobody really gets to see unless they travel. And I've always said this, I haven't told you this. I feel like Tony does like shows that you would see at a festival, but you're not at a festival. Like big, awesome, huge, lots of lights, like awesome.
Like this shouldn't even be happening.
Huge, yes,
in this town
huge
shows.
Right. And he's
huge,
like huge. He does like one night, like 5 hours, 6 hours of like of being at a festival, where people like don't get to go, and they don't pay like $150, $175. They pay like a normal price, like.
And he's also got air conditioning and bathrooms.
Also, really good point. Yeah.
And cryo.
Is that? Would you say that's at least an accurate
description?
So if you take all those models, they can't interfere with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way they could
is if you're all doing something on the same night.
Right. Which, as I talked about last time I was here, like 2-3 years ago, like that used to happen.
Yeah,
so
they all feed off of each other. They all feed off of each other.
Yeah.
Do you still have problems with that now, Tony? Do you end up like accidentally stepping on toes? And now that you guys are throwing these really big shows that have a gravitational pull from out of town, has that gotten more difficult?
No, because I try to reach out to everybody to make sure that when we get an offer for a date, that nobody else is throwing anything at that time, and even if they are, sometimes there's no other chance or no other time we're going to get this offer again. So, I do try to communicate with everybody. Yeah.
And here
Mike and I talk all the time. I know John's schedule. Obviously, it's every Tuesday, and I've gotten many of DJs to open our shows from EDM Tuesdays.
All right, I'm going to take a break really quick from the conversation here because what's up, Mo?
I just have one comment.
Sure.
We got Greg Lane. He says he likes the topic because he just recently moved back to Mississippi, and he doesn't have a lot of support and is looking to try and do like a quarterly thing to where it's all inclusive. That whole rising tide lifts all boats type deal. So
that's kind of probably up your alley there.
Yeah,
Mike.
have him write that in a question. What's that mean?
So are there struggles with throwing a show like that doesn't have a regular cadence? In other words, it's not every Tuesday, or it's not a big blowout one like festival style show. It's kind of whenever you are you space them out at a certain kind of rate, but
Yeah, he's more
Do
like
you
the
lose momentum?
Yeah, he's more like the locomotive. I mean, you've got a schedule, but it's consistency, that power and that delivery and that branding, just the constant consistency.
I guess I'm kind of having a hard time with the.
Yeah,
the
sorry,
question.
I'm kind of all over the place. I was just wondering if you find it trouble to keep the momentum going without doing like a weekly or a bi-weekly or something like that.
Yeah, sure, that's there. I mean, there's that chance. I mean, that's why I try to keep it every other month, or try to go at least worst case scenario quarterly for a year. But
and you have a strong online presence too, which helps.
Correct, and there's a root of a community there that kind of looks for the next volume and stuff like that. So, and they know basically when it's coming, a couple 8-10 weeks, but yeah, it's you could certainly, there's power in momentum.
Yeah.
And if you lose that,
I would say it's the opposite. I would say I think doing it weekly, it's difficult to keep the momentum going.
Because it's too much of the same
Not that
thing,
the momentum
or
isn't there, but I think it's more difficult to keep the momentum going weekly than hey, our next big show. I mean, there is value in making people wait for something that's good.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge value. If they know that everything's happening on Tuesday, then okay, something's happening on once a week.
And that's why you wanted it to be free and everything,
Right.
because it's always there, and you just know it's there. It's reliable.
I mean, momentum is a lot hard to keep when you're just exposed to it, and it's reliable, and it's your routine, So,
but the problem with volume being every 2 to 3 months is another promoter could sneak in there, even out of town.
The sneaky promoter types.
And I mean, it's possible. Someone could start a new night in between those 8 weeks off, and something could happen, and you're like, oh man, that was pretty big what they're doing, and people could forget about volume. So
I think the younger generation, myself, really needs to see constant in their face. Social media, everything is social media driven. And if you don't constantly see, or your company is not constantly putting up posts, whether it be an article for something or, hey, check this song out or something, just some type of content coming from your brand, they tend to forget and go on to the next thing. It's very, very quick. Yeah, I don't want to call it ADD. Yeah, the attention span. Yeah, we'll call it the attention span. It's if they don't see this constant, they're on to the next thing. And if they tend to attach to this next thing, you may lose them.
Mo, you and I went to breakfast today, and we talked a little bit about this, how we're trying to figure out how to use things like Snapchat and Instagram stories and these kinds of content creation, channels where the stuff goes away or will only be seen by 4 or 5 people at a time. And it feels, to people probably my age or older, it feels like you're wasting time, because it's like I would rather be creating content forever.
Yeah. And we talked about that micro content, and luckily, like I've said before, I have teenage kids, and they primarily use that as their means of communication through social media. Me, the 43-year-old guy, I don't really think it's that cool for me to see, put my uniform on, driving into gate, but I don't know, maybe it works for some people. Maybe that's interesting because it's just little tidbits. And like you said, if they're only taking 10 seconds to see what's going on, then it's easier to digest. Where
they don't
maybe
feel
because
like
I'm older, I'm so attached to seeing something more significant.
They're willing to waste 10 seconds at a time rather than 30 minutes to figure out whether or not they like something that they're watching.
Yeah, and I agree, because I've been doing little niblets like that, kind of testing it through Instagram, where I'll like post pictures of me walking my dogs, or I'll post pictures of me barbecuing, and 20 likes here, 30 likes there. So I think there's some legs to it.
If you look at some of our recap videos, or anybody's recap videos for that matter, they're 30 seconds most. It's you go past that, and people. Thank you. Thanks, Caleb. But
let's drop the Sasha one in the show notes. By the way,
for sure.
If you put it longer, 30, 45 seconds, people their attention span goes, and they don't want to watch it. They're on to the next thing.
That little change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we had a minute. I think it was a minute and a half video, and we narrowed it down to 45 seconds. It was an amazing video, but just nobody wants to watch a video that long. They want to get to the point and be done with it and on to the next thing.
Yeah, I've got some friends that run YouTube channels and stuff like that, and they all say the same thing, that the average attention span, even for like things like tutorials where people are like going to try to learn something. Yeah, if you don't have it compacted down into 2 minutes or less, people they don't even watch. Most people don't watch the whole thing.
And a lot of channels like Facebook, for example, they start autoplaying the videos and they autoplay them on mute for obvious reasons. But then for us as DJs, it's like, okay, how do I get my little slice in there? And they're just going to scroll past it, and somebody would scroll past me playing on this booth right here and say, oh, okay, he's DJing, and scroll past and might not realize, hey, that was cool music, or it's just there are unique struggles to people who are promoting audio, I think, when it comes to social too.
To go back to volume real quick, like a lot of it's built and based around like me personally. Like Fridays work, still as selfish as this sounds, Fridays work best for me. Every other month works best for me. And hopefully that jives with, my market and they're able to come. But, I would actually like to do once a monthly. I really wish it could be that, but I don't have the time or the resources. But one of my favorite events was First Friday, always. I looked forward to that every month. And I think there was something about, hey, no matter what's going on, I know that First Friday, go out, good lineup. But what's so different for you guys, though, is you guys had the First Fridays, the one-offs. That's, if I could just focus on every, once a month, I might be able to do something like that. But but ultimately, the reason why I pick Fridays is it's hard for me to recover. Like I need Saturday and Sunday to recover. If I'm up till 4 or 5, if I'm up till 4 or 5 in the morning, like on a Saturday, I'll feel it Monday when I get back to work.
Yeah. Those cherry cokes kill you, don't
they?
Yeah.
just staying up. I mean, shoot, it's hard, man.
Well, Mo and I went out to Tony and Billy's 3-dimensional show last night. Well, you were there too, Mike. I was telling Mo earlier I had 2 beers and I felt them this morning. I'm like, I can't even do it anymore. Like,
I want to ask Tony about what he just said. Was that exhausting for you?
Last night?
First Friday.
Oh, First Fridays, absolutely. Absolutely.
Did you feel it like immediately? Were you like, this is a lot of work? Because you had your irons in.
We started off with what, 8 18s, and 2 of those were therapies. So we had to bring in 6 18s every month.
Venue.
I don't mean physically exhausting. I mean like every month we have to have this while you had other shit going on.
Yeah, it was
because
mentally
you were
and
still
physically.
doing the stuff you're doing now.
Finding 6 artists
to
paint during the show.
Oh God, that's
5
right.
different acts every month that are completely different from different cities.
And you still got Yikes and Snowed In.
Right.
Yeah, and putting the right people in the right slots for the show. It was a lot. For 2 guys.
A monthly to where I didn't have to worry about one-offs. I might be able to not get burnt out by it. But
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't heard from Jack.
I'm also a promoter.
I was gonna say. Well, no. I was gonna say
Yeah.
because I mean, for what we were talking about before with the drum and bass market in the Midwest right now, it's becoming more niche, but
it's tough.
You've been driving that in Columbus.
Well,
you and
Cleveland and Cincinnati have both kind of like fallen off the map,
right?
And me and my 2 other friends who make up Indirect Audio, our promotional outfit.
Yep.
We're like, man, if we don't do something, like it's going to be gone. And if we, in terms of drum and bass.
I have a quick question about that.
Yeah.
Has the younger generation that was into the dubstep and the trap, has that crossed over?
No.
Not at
We've
all.
tried, and like people have had these conversations with me, and I'm like, I've tried everything. We've co-promoted with my best friend's party.
Wait, even with all this halftime drum and bass business going
on,
on, it's still not.
Here's the thing: like I've opened, my best friend's party is like the big EDM, trap, dubstep kind of outfit in Columbus, and they're good friends of mine, and they're really nice to have me open up a lot of their shows. Not a lot of their shows, but they've had me multiple times. And Nick Reed, the main guy behind it, he's super cool. He says, play whatever you want. So, at first I'm like, do I have to play trap? Or, because like, I won't do that. I got to kind of stay true to myself. So he's like, no, play whatever you want. But like when I'm playing for primarily 21 to 25-year-olds, I can't, like they have no nostalgia. They have no nostalgia connection to any of the music I'm playing, which is a big deal. So like classics it has no connection with them. So I kind of have to skew my selections to cater to them. And, I go harder than I normally do. Some of the drum and bass that I play is halftime. It sounds more like hip hop. It sounds a little, similar to trap, but they don't come out to our shows. Like we've tried to kind of pull them in, under our wing and attract them to our shows, but it's just very segregated. So, for whatever reason, it just, at least in this area, it's not clicking with the younger crowd.
Which was weird because like you and I played that show where we opened up for Datsik, and like that was an amazing show because there were like 1,000 kids who were there to see like hardcore bro step, right? And Jack and I just had this entire place, like kids were like hanging from rafters. They were just
straight
going
up drum and bass, just killed it.
But then like over the course of the next couple of years where we thought that crossover was going to happen, and then all of a sudden it didn't. And that was a very weird thing because you would think that would be like a natural evolution for these kids, especially as dubstep kind of waned and
I thought so
evolved.
too. And people brought that up. And the last Laboom show that I played, I opened up for Feed Me, and that was like maybe one of their biggest shows, like that I can remember. I played for like they had to turn people away at the door. There was like 900 plus people like crammed into this bar. It was ridiculous, and like I played straight up drum and bass. They were just eating it up, like just headbanging, going crazy, but for whatever reason, when I'm playing my shows in Columbus, they don't come out. So, it's just, there's other factors involved with venue selection and stuff too.
Sure.
So we're starting to throw some of our newer shows at the same venue where a lot of the EDM shows are happening at Scully's in Columbus, where we were doing our drum and bass shows at a small bar, and it was hard to pull them to that venue. So venue does play a role into it too.
Right. So all that you talked about the state of drum and bass, at least around here.
Yeah.
Did that factor in at all to the Jackie Boy alias and all that?
Well, a little bit. I just, I said earlier, like my option. I'm one of the only people throwing drum and bass events in Ohio. So, and the other thing is, I don't like to put myself on my own lineups. Like, I just, some promoters feel differently about that. Like, I kind of would rather give the spotlight to other people. I'm not trying to, like, pat myself on the back, but, I think it's a little weird when promoters put themselves on almost every show. It just
I've heard both sides of that argument.
I mean,
I was going to say, I've done it for years, but I get it.
It's not weird. It just feels weird.
Some people just aren't
not a
comfortable
knock
with it.
against people who do. It's just a personal choice of mine.
Right.
So, so my, when I'm one of the only people throwing the drum and bass events, I'm only playing maybe a couple times a year, and it just gets really, really, really frustrating not having an outlet. I'm spending a ton of money on records.
Yeah.
I'm, creating music. I'm
we can all verify
music.
that. We follow you on your social media channel.
Pent up frustration, like, God, I got to play for people. So, but when I play drum and bass events in Columbus, it's the same 25, 35 to 45-year-olds. They're all just kind of like stroking their beard. They've seen me like a million times over the years, and then when I play, it seems like when I play house and techno shows, everyone's dancing and the vibe is so much more receptive. And, just for whatever reason, the drum and bass shows are a little more just super laid back. So
which is kind of the antithesis to
it's weird.
the mood of the music.
You and Jack about that. The other.
Say again.
I'm gonna hand this right back to you, but we're okay. All right, bye.
He's like, that's good. Ask your question, asshole.
The other guy that was supposed to be here, Steve, he had always told me, he told me this back in like 2008. He took me to see Phantom 45, and that was my first, not just drum and bass show. That was the first time I ever heard drum and bass ever, and I was like, what is this thing in my ears that is amazing?
Right.
And it was packed. It was huge. And he said, drum and bass historically always exists on a wax and a wane.
Yes.
And at that time, and this was again 2008, it was clearly on its peak, and then it dropped, and then it hasn't been up really since. I want to know, like, what if you guys agree, and if so, like, why did that happen? Why has it not come back?
Just real quick, I want
drum and bass shows for EDM Tuesday.
Real quick, I got to say that probably fits the description, or most genres would fit into that same description, right? Like the cycle.
Absolutely. All genres of music have gone through different phases, ups and downs. Like he mentioned 2008, like I think it was maybe like 2006, 2007. I just had gotten really burnt out on drum and bass. It got really formulaic. It just kind of was at a low point in the overall like 20 or so years, that it's been around. And so that was like when Bloghouse and, the Ed Banger stuff was just like blowing up like crazy. And I was just like, I'm going there. And like the first couple of shows I was DJing dance rock and Bloghouse and stuff, I had, when Mastercraft was like, coming out at the time, like I never had so much fun DJing for crowds. Like everyone was just like, going absolutely berserk. And so I took quite a few years off from drum and bass in that time period just because, and then I came back to it. I just, Bloghouse kind of had its run of like 4 or 5 years. And then I felt like drum and bass kind of was like back on the upswing. There was some new trends coming out at the time. And there were some like fresh sounds at the moment. Some new producers came around to like inject some life into the genre. I'm like, oh, I like this. And so I kind of went back to it. So
I'm going to make you blush here and say that you're one of the best drum and bass producers I've ever heard.
Yep.
So when it comes to production, do you see these same kind of trends that you're describing in the local scene, and as when it relates to you as a DJ, do you see that in a global sense? Because you've had releases on labels all around.
Right.
Does the local scene seem to follow the same kind of wax and wane trends, or does it vary in London versus here? Or?
Since I'm kind of like controlling or curating the local scene, it's I kind of play a role.
You're
like,
biased.
Yeah. But I am and I'm not. Like I've always been kind of into everything. Like even with drum and bass, like my early drum and bass days, I was just like playing, really hard, dark stuff. And then in the early 2000s, I started playing, soulful drum and bass. So I'm not discriminatory when it comes, drum and bass is kind of a unique genre, and like it has like drastically different, I know house has like deep house and jackin' house and disco house, swing house, yada, yada, yada. But drum and bass has like drastically different cutoffs. And I've always kind of been into all the different styles. So really, when it comes to like curating the shows locally, it really honestly comes down to what tours are coming through at the moment. Like I can't really pick and choose who I mean, I can to a degree, but I have relationships with the U.S. booking agents for, large groups of drum and bass DJs, and they just email me on a regular basis, in the next couple months, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so is going to be coming through. Do you want any of these guys? And then I have to factor in, can I afford this guy? And other factors. So I don't know if I got off the rails with the question, but
yeah,
I might have.
Yeah, I just kind of wondered if all that. So, when you're producing drum and bass, does it follow the same kind of trends when it comes to popularity and which styles? Like, does it affect the stuff you produce, the local scene?
To a degree, yeah. Not the local scene doesn't at all, really. It's more of like the global kind of trends that, and not that I try to hop on trends or anything like that, but I also want to make music that's going to be recepted well, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm wondering if drum and bass has this issue globally instead of just here, and I keep hearing this over and over again from other people, so it seems that it's kind of universal.
Yeah, well,
unless you're in London.
Yeah, right. In the last like in the last like 4 or 5 years, drum and bass has taken kind of a drastic shift towards halftime drum and bass, which is, drum and bass is 174 beats per minute,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is that just like cheating and not calling it dubstep?
No, because dubstep's 140 beats per minute.
Right.
So a lot of people get that twisted.
Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty much straight up hip hop.
Okay.
I mean, if you double...
Is that just cheating and not calling it hip hop?
No, because there are production techniques involved, especially when it comes to the bass lines. And just, I mean, there's obvious similarities between halftime drum and bass and hip hop, but you know, it doesn't sound like something out of New York or LA typically. You know, it mainly has to do with the bass lines and the production techniques that make it a little different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and plus the less focus on the vocal delivery
right,
instead
absolutely.
of hip hop. I assume.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost
not that that's not there.
There are vocal tracks, but you know, it's very similar to instrumental hip hop.
Well, like if instead of saying is it just cheating and not calling it hip hop, if you'd have said grime, then you'd had a little bit more of a foundation to stand on, because I mean that whole grime UK like hip hop scene, a lot of that is rooted with the beats sounding a lot more like the halftime drum and bass than it does our version of hip hop.
Right.
Well, you know, Tony and I, we've talked about this too when it comes to techno and tech house and progressive house, how those sounds, you know, today's techno is a whole lot like the progressive house of 10 years ago or so.
Yeah, and now, I mean, drum and bass, you know, the halftime stuff is kind of like, I mean, it's still having its run or whatever, but now you're just getting into like all kinds of blurry genre lines, and I kind of like that, just because I think there's a market for like any kind of style within drum and bass. So it's all kind of still relevant. Like you can still make soulful drum and bass, you can still make really techno-y drum and bass, you can make the hip hop sounding drum and bass. Like it's still all supported. Just some people like it all. Some people only like certain styles. So it just kind of depends on the audience. But when it comes to my personal productions, it just like it varies wildly. Like if you go to my SoundCloud page, like it's kind of all over the place, and it's not really like a conscious decision. It's just like some nights when I sit down, I'll find like a sample, or I'll just start messing with some drums, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, I guess I'm going here.
How do you sit down and not create trance? Because that's what keeps happening to me for some reason. It just comes out.
I can't help you there.
I haven't figured that out yet.
Turn off the arpeggiator.
Perfect. All right, real quick, I want to get this announcement in because this is big for me. Before we do that, Mo, do you want to go ahead and announce the next poll?
All right. I actually just sort of created this one based off some of the feedback that's coming through, and this is coming as a result of, where do we go? Whatever. The question is, what type of music would you like to see another 101 dive episode into? Because based off what Jack said here, there's a lot of people wanting to know a little bit more about, we said, house, techno, hip-hop / rap, trance, and other. Right now, house is in the lead, as it should be.
House is in the lead. Okay. I've got 2 of those secretly in the works, but none of them, they're both more specific than that. So that'll be very revealing to see where to aim next.
Cool. So, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I had a question for Jack, because of the D&B episode that we did. You know, we approached it and tried to market it as a 101. Here's your primer. And, you know, I think we had a lot of really good conversation, and as much as I love drum and bass, I learned a lot from it. But it had a certain element of controversy to it once that episode went live within the drum and bass community.
I mean, if you do a house one, you do any genre, you're going to have people, no, this was the first person to do this and that. And like I had Facebook messages. I'm like,
so that
stuff gets so subjective.
So that's my question for you is that, so I know that there were a lot of people on like different social media outlets that were like, you forgot blah blah blah, you forgot blah blah blah. Like one of the biggest ones was like people were complaining a lot. That you focused on a lot of AK-1200, but left out Soul Slinger.
Soul Slinger, I knew you were going to say that.
So was there? I mean, other than we were just trying to, collect some information to introduce it to the person who knows
Right.
nothing about drum and
Right.
bass. But was there a particular reason that you leaned more one way than the other?
With
or?
that particular subject?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just based on facts.
Sure.
I mean, Soul Slinger was instrumental, and I'm not going to like wax poetic about that right now.
Right.
But like, Soul Slinger was instrumental into bringing drum and bass over to the United States from overseas. But if you want to go back into the episode and listen to it, I'm not going to reiterate it right now.
Right.
Episode 34. Thank you.
Mo
Mo didn't even look that up, by the way.
AK 1200.
We just
Right. But I'll just leave it as like it's subjective. Like
Sure,
there's not one right or wrong answer. They were both instrumental in bringing it over here.
Right,
Also, it's like
And I don't like some people like to obsess over details like that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not really like a debater. I just
But you know what I gotta say? I did see where Dara totally like just confirmed it.
he
like,
had my back.
Yeah,
And he's from New York, where Soul Slinger's from.
right. So if Dara can listen to an episode and totally validate everything and tell everybody just shut up,
He sent
it
me a
was
message
good.
on Facebook, gave me like the thumbs up. And,
That's right.
I mean, there's so much more stuff that could have been crammed into there.
Right.
But you gotta like parse. You gotta like have some brevity and.
Well, sure.
You can't have like a 6-hour episode.
Yeah, I was going to say,
It
what
would've
do you
been a
want for an
3-part
hour-long
touch on
show?
like the main points.
Yeah.
And that's a genre that's relatively young too.
Yeah.
As compared to like house and techno, where you've got like a whole nother like 10 years or so.
Right.
And a whole lot, more history and key players. You've got Detroit and Chicago and yada yada yada.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't envy whoever has to explain that.
Okay, for those who are listening to the live stream, I wanted to make sure that you guys saw that there is a question box, and we're going to be spending the last 30 minutes or so of the show today answering any questions that are in there. So make sure that if you have anything you want us to answer, whether it's a technical question, anything, just something for fun, whatever you got, post them in there, and Mo will pick some out for us here at the end, and we'll read them.
Yeah, they're starting to stack up. We
Cool.
got
Nice.
about 6 so far.
Okay.
So keep them coming, folks.
So here's our first big announcement. Coming probably by the time this will be published, it's not up for the live stream listeners yet, but by the time this will go live on, I think the 17th is our published date for this episode.
I believe so.
We will be launching the Passionate DJ store. Finally. I've been working on this for literally years.
Mouse pads.
Not for nothing.
Coffee mugs.
Yes,
Bring 'em
yes.
on.
That's right. The circle logo helps for the frisbee. Yeah.
Right.
By the way, this is largely thanks to you, Mike, because your designs are all over this stuff. So,
Nice. Very cool.
obviously, the shirts we're all wearing right now, for those of you in the stream, you can see them right now. This was designed by Mr. Mike Donovan.
Well done.
And I've got a whole line of like custom designs too, not just logo stuff. And so I've got a couple examples here. Now this here is called Moonlighting.
That's my favorite.
So are you able to see that in the stream, Mo? This way?
Hold this.
Okay.
You got
And
it.
so basically the idea here is this started out as another shirt, which I'll show you in a moment, but the designer came up with this and I liked it so much that I kept it too. And it has for those who are listening at home, it's got a moon cut out that looks kind of like a spinning record, and it's got the, what's the
arm.
word? Tone arm, thank you. Tone arm and everything, and then you've got a pair of lovers sitting here in the water, or in front of the water. Yes, it's lovers. All right, moving on.
This guy.
Moving right along.
Who invited Ron Chorple to the...
David's going to describe what we're looking at.
Well, the people listening at home, the hundreds listening at home, aren't going to see the video stream, so screw them, right?
Don't you mean thousands, David?
The thousands. All right, here's the next one. This one's all about hip hop. So on the left, we've got the knowledge, and on the right, we've got the movement. It describes hip and hop. This was inspired by a KRS-One song.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cool.
And then this is the actual, now John's going to make fun of me again because the actual word's in it. Deep House is for lovers. So this is another similar design with the, got the lovers in the canoe and the backdrop looks like a sky, but it also kind of doubles as looks like a record. So
Awesome.
And then this one's kind of my favorite. So you guys have seen like the coexist like bumper sticker
with all the different symbols.
Yeah.
Here's my version.
Oh,
So this
cool.
is
USB symbol, headphones, record, CD player, turntable, laptop. I'm narrating this, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's not, you got it.
And is that a 303
Pair
and
of
a
controllers.
909 or something?
Pair of controllers.
What's the T?
Controllers.
Oh, okay. DJ controllers.
Yeah.
Oh.
So for those listening at home, it's kind of similar to the coexist, symbol, bumper sticker, whatever it is, but better because it's all oriented around multi-format DJs.
Can you give it to the guests so that way we
Yes.
can get a good screenshot of that?
Namaste.
Just hold it up. Yeah. And know that it's not a pee bottle, Kilma.
That thing keeps creeping me out.
Asking Chapel he's drinking urine. That's great.
No, it's Kilma that said that. Is he drinking here?
There you go. Very nice. Very nice.
Cool. And then, of course, we'll have all the Passionate DJ logo, merch, and all that fun stuff. Even a hoodie, which I haven't even gotten that one yet. I'm looking forward to that one.
Dope.
So, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
great design.
So,
Well done, boys.
and then besides the merch, that's not the only thing. You'll actually be able to do all of your basic DJ shopping on there, whether you're looking for controllers, mixers, any kind of hardware, all that fun stuff, headphones, it'll all be there. So check it out.
Buy my stuff.
Buy my stuff. All right. To kind of reel this back specifically into DJing a little bit, let's talk about the struggles of being a DJ and a parent at the same time.
Oh my God.
Because that's relevant to about half of us.
I'm going to be over here.
Hey, will you give me a beer while you're at it?
All right, let me roll up my sleeves for this section.
Right.
Or Mike,
So-
Mike too.
You would be our, I don't know if newest parent is the way to say it, but
Am I?
you have the freshest baby, right?
I do have a 6-month-old. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have.
Oh, beer for me. Or is that for you? I don't drink. Thanks.
Just urine.
Just urine. So how is that, or has it affected your output and your drive?
Everyone's
and,
situation with that is different, obviously.
Yeah.
I have a very cool and understanding wife who knows that I'm passionate about music. But it's just a constant, struggle's the wrong word, but it really takes
Dedication.
Dedication,
Yeah,
time
yeah.
management. I actually just listened to a really cool podcast. Maybe I can find it and you can put it in the show notes. But it was a podcast by a guy named Resound. And the podcast was specifically about time management and procrastination with DJing. And it tied into a lot of things involved with parenting. And so just in the last couple months, I've read some audiobooks on similar subjects, almost like self-help kind of stuff, just to like keep my head right and to find ways to balance everything and not go crazy. So, I typically do most of my music stuff once my wife and kids go to bed, like around 8:30 or 9.
Yeah.
And luckily, my wife is just like passed out, after a long day of taking care of the baby. So, like, I don't feel
quote,
guilty.
luckily my wife is passed out.
But you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel guilty about like locking myself in my quote unquote studio and working on music instead of like watching, a show with her or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we find our, during the weekends, during the day, we go to the park, we do sports stuff together with our kids. Like,
Right. It's all about balance. You still
yeah,
gotta.
it's just all about balance.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't just like overwhelming and exhausting at times. Like last night, I was trying to finish a new track, and I literally was up until 4 a.m. And I used to be able to do that like with ease. And like at 38 years old, like I'm like. It just in the last couple of years, that's like drastically changed for me. Where I used to be a night owl, now like at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, I'm like, I really want to work on. I really want to finish that track I started the other night.
Yeah, this is my time, and I can't even do it.
Yeah,
right now.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to go to bed because tomorrow I'm just going to be like I'm going to feel horrible and I'm going to have no energy.
Yeah.
So, I go through phases too, where earlier in the year, I busted out like 4 or 5 tracks, along with my DJing, but I had to take literally 2 months off where I had no desire to work on music. And I had respected record labels like emailing me like, hey, you got any tunes? And I'm just like, I'm wasting these opportunities. Like, what are you doing? But if the passion isn't there and the energy isn't there, I can't sit down and work on music. Yeah. It's just, I was just mentally drained. Yeah. And then, but the cool thing is, and I've read some things on this, is it's like recharging a battery. And when I take the time off, I come back energized and I come back excited. And
that's good, because I lose momentum.
Yeah.
I wish that I felt energized, but when it comes to production specifically, I break the cycle and it's gone for a while.
For me, I think that's going to be a regular thing for me. I used to produce with a partner years and years ago, and so just for the last couple of years, I'm doing everything by myself, so it's a little bit different. But I'm kind of trying to find my way and how I go about doing things. But I think that's going to be a regular thing that I do, where I kind of just unplug for a while and gather momentum and ideas and excitement. And then I come back and I just kind of work at a fever pitch, and I just boom, 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 knock out music that way. And who knows, it may change, but that's kind of how it's working for me. But yeah, family life is, that's number one on my totem pole.
Right.
I can't neglect that. I have 3 kids. I have a wife. That always has to be above music, no matter what.
Right.
And I run a business too. I mean, it's really, really tough. I run a medical business. So it's just, like I said, nighttime is kind of, usually between 9 o'clock and 1 or 2 in the morning. I try to get as much as I can done. And that's what I'm doing.
Mike, when you were here last time, we called your episode the 8th day of the week. Is that still how it feels? And have you I think Trip wanted to ask something about this. Have you still found the time?
Are you still finding the time on the 8th day of the week? And then, you're also a DJ.
Correct.
And now, so are you finding the 9th day of the week in order to be able to DJ and to,
because you have young kids too.
And to get out there and still be able to play other shows.
The reason why I always say the 8th day of the week is because it's just, I get so tired of hearing people say, I'm busy. It's well, me too.
Right.
We are all busy, all of us.
Yep.
We got to fit this in. We got to fit the club life in. We got to fit the leisure, the leisure hours in. We're all busy. So that's really kind of how it is. Jack and I, we've talked about this before. We could write the same pages to the same book because our lives are so similar in terms of I run a small graphic design firm out of my home. We have small children, but we're both very good-looking men, So, but for me, all of this, it's about defining who I am as a DJ and being okay with that. There was my prime, and it was early 2000s up through there where it was just getting booked all the time.
Yeah. When you say prime amount of bookings or prime
correct.
level of skill?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because back then it was a very different scene in this region. I mean, not just here in Dayton, but in the region. So we're talking, a 500 to 700 party, a 500 to 700 person party was pretty average to small, whereas all of your bigger lineups, I mean, if you had more than 2 national headliners or international headliners, it was nothing to fill a place with 1,000 to 2,000 kids. So back then, that's when we were all at our prime, because you could be playing Indianapolis, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, Louisville, Lexington. I mean, you name it, anywhere throughout the Midwest. I mean, we were all over the place. And, so back then, I mean, and it was nothing to be playing 3-4 times a week.
Yeah. I mean, it's especially locally, we'd have Night Owl on Tuesdays.
Right. Fight Owl.
And then, Wednesday. I think there was something in Cincinnati on Wednesdays.
Yeah,
I had a residency in Cincinnati at a club called 1200. I think. I think Edson Xavier was involved in that. This was years ago, and I would travel to Cincy every Wednesday night. Loved it. Nice little night. And then Fridays would be a pre-party somewhere. Saturday would be something. So there were months that I would play multiple times in a week. And now it's just kind of like, I know who I am as a DJ. You know, I think when I say in my prime, that's in terms of notoriety and playing out, like the amount of playing out. But I think in terms of DJing, I'm DJing the best I've ever DJed in my life now. I think I have an understanding of it, a little more thoughtful, a little more of a patient DJ. But so me being okay with where I am in terms of DJing, like I'll talk to a promoter and they'll say, well, you ever played this kind of event? Have you ever played out before? And it's like, no, nope, never. No, that's okay. Pick someone else.
You got to stop doing that, John.
But it's like, so, you know, I've kind of defined who I understand who I am as a DJ right now. So that makes the family life a little bit easier. But, you know, I met my wife in 2001, right after 9/11. So she kind of saw the peak of everything. You know, Gina peered into the, you know, she would go out from time to time and she enjoyed house music. She still does. So she knows what this means to me. You know, so if it's like, hey, I'm DJing here, I got a chance to throw this show. So I always get the green light from my wife.
Gina's awesome. Both Ginas are awesome.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I could totally piggyback off of that because, like, you know, I think a common thread there is that we all have very supportive spouses. Yeah. You know, the rave thing was never my Gina's thing, like at all. Like, so
right.
You know, but she saw that very early on for me that, you know, the writing music and the DJing and all of that stuff, that's been an integral part of my life for a couple of decades plus. So, you know, and she sees how that is that's a force that is fed in my life that, you know, I don't get from anywhere else. Like I have my family life, which is always paramount, like Jack said. And, you know, so for me, you know, family life fulfills a part of me. And then there's my professional life that fulfills a part of me. And there's something in this music thing that switch was turned on years and years and years ago. And it's never faded for me. So I still feel that. And my wife sees that and she's very supportive in all of that.
Real good, Mo.
And personally, if it wasn't for that beautiful young lady right over there,
Do you feel like
who had
talking
bought
about?
me a mixer for my birthday about 6 years ago, my life would be a lot different right now. Because she gave me the ability to reach back into something that woke up a passion that I forgot that I had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I made a choice to become a parent roughly 18 years ago. And about 4 weeks, that young man's going to start playing college football. And like I said, if it wasn't for her, I probably would have forgot about that part of my life.
Let's
so,
get a round of applause for
I love
Mel
you.
Dingo.
Hey!
Just to piggyback off Trip really quick, I have a similar situation where my wife didn't come up with the rave scene. She didn't go to clubs. So, you know, my situation's unique. You know, some people have everything in common musically. They go to parties or they go to events with their wives. Like, my wife is completely removed from everything I do musically. Not to say she doesn't support it, because she totally does.
Right, exactly.
But for me, it's really nice that it gives me that space. And I think that's one of the things that really helps me personally navigate this whole thing, because when I go out DJing or when I'm doing music, like that's my space, you know, to get away. And I think that's healthy, you know, to have your own space.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes.
The hard part for me though was like when me and Gina first got together, I kept trying because I was like, if you just come out here, if you just see,
I never did that.
If you just try it, just see what it's all about. And because her and I bonded over hip hop, right? Underground and indie hip hop and stuff. Yeah. So like, and I'm all like, no, but if you see this and like, if you just give it a try, and like every time I turn on drum and bass, she starts to cringe a little bit. Like, she's okay with house and techno, but like, you know,
sure. sure. I mean, my wife has no idea
interest.
About, maybe not even no interest, but she has no idea probably even what it is.
Right.
I mean, and we've been married for 8 years or so. She just like completely, like I said, she's so happy when I tell her that things are going well or I got a certain record deal or something like. But for me, it's just I really enjoy that because before my wife, I was going to like every show and nightclubs with my girlfriend at the time, and I just when I'm out, I want to make connections. I want to like I don't want to have to. Babysit's the wrong word, but you kind of get the idea of like what I'm trying to say. Like I love that music is my space to kind of do what I want.
And that was a conversation that me and Gina had at some point where she was just like, it's okay. We can still do things separately, and that's your thing, and I have
that
my
same
thing.
conversation.
Yeah. So so then I just.
Like I'm not married, I don't have kids, but like I absolutely relate to all this. Like I just have to say, like I'm like, everyone's talking about this, and I'm like, yeah, Trace it's the same way. I know she's watching right now.
But it's
she's absolutely the same way. It's like, yeah, you're good, and she'll come out.
That's what I was gonna say. That's not to say that Gina won't come out because she would like she came out for DJ Craze 9 months pregnant.
That's right. That's a real woman right there.
What Jack was saying.
She went and plowed the fields the next day too, right?
Is what Jack was saying. That's me. She's like, it was separate space is important.
Yeah,
the acknowledgement of that, and then
but support.
You want to do this? Yeah.
You
but
have to be in a relationship like with a lot of trust. Not that you have to have a lot of trust, but
but it's like I know how that is. I know how you feel about it. I may not necessarily be into it, but I'm also not putting any sort of negative judgment on it. You do you, and I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna do me while you be you. So
and as long as you're both okay with that, it works.
Yeah, and Trace does that. So
and if anything, I like.
I didn't want to be the one asshole here who's just like, fuck it. Fuck you married guys with kids.
Yeah, no, I mean, even like for me, like Gina is always, at least just poking me a little bit, because like I've got, in my studio, I've got frames of all of the things that I've had released on labels, and I've got one empty one, and she keeps poking every so often, like, hey, you still got one empty frame. You still got one empty frame. And, like you said earlier, for me, it's been a while, because once you have that baby, and everything changes, and so trying to find that balance, trying to find that time, I'm only just now starting to get back into it, and that kid will be 2 in October.
One of the other things that I really wanted to touch on is, like was mentioned a few minutes ago, I don't have any like regrets. Like in my 20s, I DJ'd my ass off.
Yeah, right.
I DJ'd at raves. Like I did the damn thing. So like now everything is kind of just gravy. Not to say I'm not motivated, but like that there's some comfort in that. Now music for me is just like a creative outlet first and foremost. Right. So like I'm content just like writing music, and like if nothing happens with it, like I'm cool with that. Or like it ties in with DJing too. Like I could just like do mixes and listening to music, and I feel like that's kind of nice. Like I don't feel like I have to prove myself. So I think that's also something that helps me balance everything. Like I don't feel like I have to blow up. I don't have to be the next EDM guy. Like I just love music, and I'm happy doing music. And if I get a record deal, or if something cool happens, like that's all just awesome. But it's
it's that sense of accomplishment when that happens, but it's not that your world revolves around it.
I think a lot of DJs really struggle with, craving acceptance and adoration, and that can be really, really dangerous when you don't receive that. It becomes depressing, and you feel like you're not doing things the right way, and if you're not blowing up or you're not playing bigger shows, you're a failure.
Right. There's a John Chappell quote about this. It becomes one big "I'm famous in Dayton, Ohio" fest or something. That's what you said in our first.
I said what?
You said something about that when you were here the first time on the show. You said it becomes this big popularity contest of who's the biggest in Dayton or wherever you are.
When last time I was on here, I was talking about a situation that was like it's non-existent anymore. But it's about I mean, to give an example, it'd be like some kid comes in, plays a show, then plays another show, and then suddenly they're at such a more or less boring point in their life, and they see, oh look, this is happening. I want to achieve that. What they don't realize though is that like, you know, it's just dating. We're just kind of doing what we love. This isn't for fame, you know. And it's like, and it's like this isn't for fame, and that's what, because you said earlier something about Cincinnati being like off, like just off.
With drum and bass.
Correct.
Well, I mean,
well, yeah, no, that's what I was gonna say. Is because I was like, yeah, I remember telling both David and Tony a long time ago, how did Dayton get to a point where we are throwing shows where we're getting Cincinnati kids in here, and Cincinnati isn't doing anything. And I'm not even knocking Cincinnati at all, because
I love
Cincinnati and Dayton have always had like a super good relationship.
Yeah.
And Columbus has had a good relationship with us too.
really quick. Like, it's a freaking grind to promote electronic music events.
Yes.
You know, that's a big
Yeah, you
part
want to
of
speak
it.
to that, Tony?
You know,
You hit the nail on the head.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, some promoters fall off, and, like, that's why, man. Like, some people don't realize how much work is involved.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I don't throw shows anymore. I mean, I threw shows for a decade plus with my buddy Jason Naughty Groove, and yeah, I mean it's a thankless job. There's not a whole lot of money in it, and even when you have like the big one, well then it's like, you know, then everybody's either trying to knock you off of some, you know, pedestal that they think you're on, and by outdoing you, or you know, there's always inter-crew drama and stuff like that, and it just, I don't know, it the juice. I love this line from a movie. The juice just wasn't worth the squeeze, you know.
But real quick, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask you about what John, about what Jack was just saying. You said something about you kind of have accomplished what you set out to accomplish as a DJ. Is it okay if I ask you about that, John? Because we talked a little bit about this at Stanton Warriors. Do you remember that conversation?
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Ask that again.
So I'm just curious. You said to me...
Shut up, Mo.
You said to me, this might be my...
Last show.
Last show. Yeah. This will be my last
Which
show
is because
all I've set out to do...
I told Tony that when he booked me for well, I've had too much urine.
Stanton Warriors, so.
No. I said that to you at the Stanton Warriors. When I'm talking about the first show, I said I want to play with two people, and one of them was Stanton Warriors, and the other one was
Paris
Paris Hilton.
I hate you so much right now.
In the bathroom of a Chick-fil-A.
On Sunday.
You had that in your pocket, didn't you?
Nice.
Who did I have before? Decline.
Decline.
Oh,
Yeah, I opened for Decline, and
So do you feel like you're done? I mean, you still DJ, so obviously
I
not.
do, but I mean, and I obviously, like, you know, I love playing out. I'm not going to say no to a good show.
But you don't feel... Is it like
honestly,
something
I don't know.
hanging
At this
over
point,
you?
I feel
or
pretty accomplished in that I can just go. Yeah, I'm okay. Just like focusing on my attention on like Tuesdays and stuff.
So it's gravy, like Jack
obviously
was
it's
saying.
festival season. Like, you know, it slows down a bit, but
Dude, okay.
But,
It sounds to me like it's, how am I going to top this one?
That's what I'm kind of getting at.
yeah. And honestly,
do you
and
feel
it's
like you
good- I'm
can't?
glad you said that, because I originally it was Decline, Stanton Warriors, and Sporty O.
That's what I thought about Sasha until Nicole Maldaber came along.
Right?
But I'm saying, like, I can't, like, I love Sporty O, but Decline and Sporty O aren't going to beat Stanton Warriors for me. And I already opened up for Stanton Warriors, so now I'm like, well, yeah, I'll do Sporty O, but that's just a check off my bucket list. Stanton Warriors was supposed to be like the last thing I do, and then I was like, I'm good now, you know.
So is it that
And he
you
knew what
just
he
feel?
he knew that I wanted that show desperately. So.
Is it just that you feel accomplished now, so anything is kind of gravy, like Jack said earlier, or do you feel like do you feel a loss now? Does that make sense?
No.
Like, now that you've accomplished it, you're like, well, now what?
No, I mean, I'm good. Like, I could, you know, I'm still happy to play out of town. I still do a completely different thing. Like, you know, like even even down to the gear that I bring on Tuesdays is, you know. But if I go out of town, you know, I'm on my S4, I'm on my actual mixer, I'm bringing in a pad, I have my DJ partner with me. We're doing a whole thing that we have like done together, Dylan and I, Sexbox, you know. But as far as in town, you know, I'm sort of just focused on like promotions, you know. I don't really need to.
Right.
It's a recurring theme.
Yeah. Yes. So, I guess, you know, I would take Sporty-O, you know. Well, I would take a lot of shows, but I'm saying like as far as the things that I wanted to do, I did tell him, I was like, Decline and Stanton Warriors is really all I can think of that I really want to do.
Yeah.
And both of those were given to me by him. So.
But so a little bit before that you played those shows, you kind of started moving, you know, on a local level, you started moving into more of like a multi-format type gig, right? Like your Charlie
You're talking
Stop
about
and,
normie shit.
Yeah.
You're talking about me going up and playing music for the college kids.
I didn't mean to relate that to, well, I'm done now, so I'm just going to do this. I'm just saying.
Oh, no. I mean, that's like a gig so that I can like pay bills, which I know is like a lot of times that is like looked down upon. It shouldn't be. There's nothing wrong with it. No one should ever tell anyone else what to listen to and what's wrong and right music.
Agreed.
We cover that a lot here on the show, where we draw that line as DJ as artistry and DJ as a service. So
and yet, Fatty and I were talking about this because, you know, Dayton does this whole voting thing every year where they go best DJ. One of the categories is best DJ in town.
Right.
Wait, who does this?
Dayton.com.
Dayton.com. And the thing is like, you know, for example, Tony's in the running every year. Fatty's in the running every year. Illness is in the running every year.
I've never been in the running.
Yeah, you have. You've been in the votes.
I have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every year you're in the votes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But here's the thing: you can't compare.
Tony
That's how you know you're a baller. You don't even know you're on the list.
And then like DJ Hill up at Stage Door, which is a local gay club here, is also in the running every year. And like DJ Hill won it one year. You can't compare what Tony does to what DJ Hill does.
For the people who create those polls, I don't know if they really understand that.
Right. What I'm
you can
saying
scale
is like
that all the way up to DJ
there's a
Mag.
difference. There's a difference between like what Tony does and what a top 40 guy does, which is literally all the music you need to play is already laid out for you, you know, by society, by Billboard, by Rolling Stone, and then you have Tony and
Clear
then
Channel.
And your point is that's cool.
But they categorize this under best DJ in town.
Right.
No, and Fatty was making the argument last year that he was like, no, it needs to be best club DJ, and best, you know, and then best radio DJ or best whatever, because it's two totally different things.
Right.
So we have someone like Tony and Fatty losing out to a guy that could essentially
To the wedding
set up
singer.
iTunes, hit play, and walk away and go be on his phone for 3 hours.
Geez, John didn't get me in trouble until almost 5:30. I'm impressed.
What did I do
Just
now?
talking about local DJs and what they can
And
and
to
can't
hear
do.
more Chapel rants,
You're right.
you can get into Passionate DJ Podcast Episode 9, Struggles of the Small Town DJ with
I
John
did the 9th
Chappell.
episode.
Yeah,
It's been a while. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll see you at 100. I'll see you at 193 then. Wait, I think Mike wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
I don't
totally cut you
remember. I
off
don't
like 20 minutes ago.
I don't remember. Oh, back to being a parent. Goodness gracious. That's how my brain thinks. Never mind. I was going to say real quick, I think when it comes to my kids or our kids or any DJs that are out there listening that have young kids or middle-aged kids, whatever, dance music, like for me, has been such a teaching tool, believe it or not, especially about music.
Yeah.
Like it's just structured in a way to where I'm like, these are measures. This is the hi-hat. This is like, it's been such a really cool tool. This is the drop. Right. Yeah. But it's been dance music's been a really good tool.
Hey, David,
to teach,
what do you tell Lily? What part of the song is it?
Oh, it's the hands in the air part.
Yeah. But for me, it's been, in terms of relating it to my children, it's been a really good tool to use in terms of teaching just musically.
Okay.
And you have to look at, your turntables or CDJs, all that stuff as an instrument. Teach them. Yeah. They're instruments, really.
Yeah.
So just wanted to.
So do your kids seem kind of interested in
My kids are interested in everything.
Okay.
Sticks to video games to
sticks and DJ mixers. They do it all.
My kids are
very
my
bizarre
kids
bugs you find in your
they
backyard.
soak everything in. I mean, but I've just found that electronic music's been a really good tool to teach them about music.
Yeah,
that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, so just wanted to encourage parents about how you can kind of get them.
But see, the good thing about having teenage kids who are actually larger than yourself, just like myself and DJ Brains here, they help you set your shit up.
That's a good point.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Okay, cool. I got to share a very cool story about Brett Johnson, who was just in town for.
Amazing show, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dayton, y'all missed out on that one.
He was he thoroughly impressed with him, but I'm taking him to the airport, to the hotel when I pick him up, and he gets a phone call, and he's just real nice tone, real sweet, and I'm not dropping eaves or whatever. I'm just kind of, I couldn't help it over here. He gets off the phone and he goes, "Oh, that was my daughter." And he goes, "There's a big club in Dallas called It'll Do." And I've seen this club before. Nicole's played there. Green Velvet's played there. Everyone that's played Volume has played there. It's like their favorite place to play is It'll Do in Dallas. I'm assuming one of your listeners will have heard of it.
It's a pretty cool name.
Yeah. It's called It'll Do. It'll Do in Dallas. Look it up. Brett's like, "Oh, I just played there a couple months ago, and it was an amazing time, And he goes, "My daughter is now the resident DJ of their 6 to 9 p.m. kids night."
Oh wow!
How old is she?
What? And he goes, "It's like 16 or something." Huh. And I thought it was so cool. I'm like, and he goes, "She called me to get on the phone to find out how to get on my computer. She wanted to download some tunes." But like how we used to have here in Dayton years ago, a place called the Odyssey.
Remember
that?
Which
it was
then
it was just soda. It was like you're 15, you go
teen clubs, the Odyssey.
Sirens.
Well, that was that place. Odyssey turned into Mother Ruckers, which then turned into Sirens.
Okay.
We used to do after hours there, after all of the Gym Club and Roller Dome and Dayton parties.
Didn't Steve Silent Gloves? Didn't he used to
he
DJ
was a
at?
resident at, was it Hotspot or something?
Huber
Heights.
Oh, Sanctuary or whatever it was then.
I don't remember the name, but it was a teen club.
Opening the clubs? I don't think
No, he used to.
No, he was a resident at a teen club in Huber Heights.
He used to play at Sirens too. That's where I know.
whatever Heat used to be. I think.
Okay.
But for,
But
for me, it was just such a cool, real father-daughter moment that relates to dance music. It was like I thought he was just saying, "Hey, get in the closet. My shoes are in there," or something. But gets off and he's like, "Oh, she's asking how to turn my computer on to download music. She's a resident for the kids' night at the biggest club in Dallas." And I'm like, "Man, how cool is that? You know, just to kind of keep that connect. That's a connection for them. Pretty cool." So
yeah. Okay, Mo, if you've got a moment over there. We have our next announcement to make, and this very much involves you. Do you have a second, or are Mo's working ops over there in the corner?
Oh, that thing you told me to do with that stuff.
No, I just want to make sure. I want to make sure you're paying attention, and the answer is no. So our next big announcement is that we are launching the Passionate DJ Ambassador Program. Mo. What is the Passionate DJ Ambassador? We've kind of mentioned it on the show a little bit, but can you kind of give the spiel?
Yeah, we mentioned it in the past, and basically what we're doing is we're looking for a core group of our listeners that are going to help us spread the word about the Passionate DJ podcast wherever you're at. I know we have some international listeners. We have plenty of listeners throughout the country, but what we're trying to do is get nested into your scene. Dayton, Dave and I were talking today, we have some unique struggles because we're not a big town, but we're in a central location where we have access to about 5 major cities within about a 3-hour drive. And we want to know what you guys are doing out there, and maybe you can help us become a better scene, and maybe we can help you become a better scene. But more importantly, we want to help each other become better DJs through passion and purpose.
Bam.
So the whole idea is that we'll kind of you'll be in a secret group kind of thing, and we will be all working together to spread the word about Passionate DJ and do different things like, fill out a review, answer this survey, just little things that will help us out and, help us spread the word. So for anybody who's really down with the cause, I think Mo's got a survey ready for us to fill out.
There'll be weekly, monthly tasks, and we'll set up a friendly competition, and whoever can accomplish a certain amount of tasks, you'll achieve points. And then based off whenever these seasons are over, you'll get points and you'll be rewarded with swag like you might have seen today, or you might get other unique gifts, gift cards, whatever. But
so we're going to gamify it a little bit. We'll have points in there, and we'll have weekly tasks and monthly tasks, kind of, if for the gamers out there, they'll kind of understand how that works, where you have your weekly and monthly and daily things to do to earn your XP, as it were. So,
yeah.
Same kind of idea. So
there can be only one.
This is going to be Mo Dingo's baby. So he'll be running this thing. So if you want to get in touch with him, you can reach him at mo@passionateddj.com. And I don't think I created a link yet for the survey. So if you can post it in the chat room for anybody who wants to fill it out. And then I'll create a link at passionateddj.com/survey.
I'm sorry, Dubmaster Blue Bear said it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but for DJs.
Yes.
Exactly.
DJs and Dragons.
Exactly, brother. That is totally what it is.
Do we make sure you choose your alignment before you start rolling the dice? Chaotic neutral every time.
Do we have some polls left? We've only got about half an hour left.
Okay.
So I want to make sure we get those in because I want to get the Q&A.
Yeah, you guys have been killing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, team. The survey has been posted, so if
thank
you beautiful people out there could just log on to that, answer a few questions, and once we get all that tallied up, we'll reach out to you, probably do some web-based stuff just so we can see what you all look like and hear your voices. But we can also do that by leaving us voicemails.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I love doing.
Yes.
You leave voicemails, John?
It's not you.
It's not John Chop.
This guy that I have not.
All right, so let's look at a couple more of these polls here. So
yeah, whatever ones, if we got one or two left to do to wrap it up here, because we don't have time to answer at the end.
Yeah, the pick three looks neck and neck between the Guilty Pleasures / cheesy tracks, top 40 B-sides. What type of episode do you like the best? There's a solid lead with the tech talking when we nerd out. So I think that's mainly due to Trip.
Yes, we'll talk.
And just one of the general questions I asked is, how did you discover Passionate DJ podcast? And that was through Google search and others. So I'm going to assume like word of mouth or something.
Oh, you've already posted the polls?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. Okay. So can you? Okay, we'll announce the final results at the end then.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize you'd already been posting them.
One of the other ones is, what other music styles do you want us to see here? And that was based off everybody what they're saying in the comment section.
Awesome.
But if you want to move on to some of the questions,
yeah, let's do Q&A. This is pulled from our listeners in the chat room.
Okay. DJ Serrato wants to know, what kind of beer is David sipping on?
This is Great Lakes Elliott Ness Amber Lager. I cheated and bought a variety pack because I didn't know what everybody wanted to drink. So,
hey Jack, while you're over there,
John's got pee.
Yeah.
Tony's
Tony's
got an entire wet bar back here.
Yeah. Well, but somebody wanted to know what proof John's pee is by now.
What proof is your pee, John?
Yeah.
Did you go out last night?
No, I poured this today. It's actually 100 proof.
You poured it.
Here.
So
in the official passionateddj.com
YouTube set
/100 studio.
Right here. Oh, sorry, I stole it.
All right. So next question coming from Greg Lane. What's everybody's take on creating events with exclusivity?
What's that mean?
Exclusivity as far as only certain
limited
people are allowed in, or
limited attendance or
attendance. Yeah.
I want to know,
He seems to know what you're talking about. I just want to know what exclusivity means. What's that mean?
So,
I mean, I know what the
like,
word means, but
Well, in Columbus, we have a party called Midwest Fresh that has you have to email to RSVP, and it shuts off at 8 p.m. the night of the event.
So it was like this show.
If you, yeah.
Episode
So
1.
if you show up at the door and you're not on the list, you're not getting in.
Right.
But it's also kind of like a renegade style event where it's held in a warehouse. They have permits, but they're trying to keep it underground. They're trying to limit.
Okay.
It's a very like. I don't know how to word it.
Is that like a preserve the rave kind of approach? Is that what that's
Kind of.
about?
It's a lot of the old school heads. So it's a lot of like Detroit techno, Chicago house. It's a little bit of an older crowd, but I think it's kind of working for them because I think it adds that like scarcity element where it creates interest with, I got to be on the list. I want to be included. Kind of thing. So I'm sure it varies from city to city, but that's like I'm not involved with the events. I know the people who are throwing them, and it seems to be working well for them to like eliminate riffraff and to kind of garner a little bit of like mystique or interest in that regard. So,
well, and Reggie Davenport saying like Studio 54.
yeah, also
Okay.
like a community that just keeps going back week, you know, right?
yeah, it's a monthly event.
Or, okay, well, month.
I mean, I'm just trying to get any. Sorry.
No, you're good. I didn't know.
For my events, I'm just trying to get anyone I can, like homeless people. Like please come in. I say that jokingly, but
So no like exclusionary drum and bass Columbus
absolutely
events
not.
happening.
No,
right now.
I mean, if anything, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm trying to get new blood and new
Right.
people involved. Where it just depends on the type of event or the type of crowd. Where some people are a little more. Resistant to outside influence, or they want to keep it tight and keep it a certain way.
Right.
So, and I totally respect that.
Does anybody think that that's a bad idea, or that it's exclusionary or unfair?
Well,
I say yes, but not in terms of I say yes for Dayton. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's not exclusionary because anyone can sign up for it.
Right.
Okay.
So, I just want to make that clear with the policy that they have. They just need you to RSVP before the event. Like,
What about places that don't? What if it's just like
then
it's a private club?
That's a totally different situation, and I don't know how I feel about that because there's obviously like variables involved. It would depend on how you're excluding people.
Yeah,
like I don't know what factors someone would base.
Yeah. Some people are excluded because they can't afford cover.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, there's different levels of this, right?
Sure.
Mo, how many questions are we going to answer here? I don't want to spend too much time on one, but I want to make sure we get them
We
all
got
in.
quite a few.
Okay, cool.
Sean Freeman's asking,
Hi, Sean.
essentially, who's a DJ or producer that's killing it that nobody knows about?
Ooh, any takers? I think Mike and Jack probably be pretty good for this one. Is Trip Turlington?
I don't know.
The mic.
Man.
Nobody wants to give up the secrets, huh?
I don't know. What do you mean? The question is that nobody knows
You're
about.
well-versed.
You literally can't answer that question because we know about them.
It's hard to it's
DJ
hard to
or producer?
explain
Or does it matter? Sorry.
because I don't know
DJ or
who's well
producer.
known and who's not well known
I
to the
would say
person that's
Cash
asking the
Cash,
question.
But that's just my personal.
What's
I'm
that?
really into Cash.
Cash.
They're like there's whatever is in between a house and glitch hop. That's where Cash is.
Oh, okay.
And the guarantee is so cheap. Their tickets are so cheap. They played in like Middletown like 9, 10 months ago or something. I would say that because I'm obsessed with Cash, and I don't think enough people know about Cash.
Okay.
Are they stateside or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Shifter.
There's a
and
lot of
Trip
there's a lot of
Turlington for
people
sure.
on the drum code label. Joseph Capriati, for example,
Capriati's
amazing
good.
amazing techno producer DJ that is killing it.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people that are into techno probably know who he is, but a lot of people that aren't into techno
That's what
have
I was
no
going to
idea
say.
who he
Like,
is.
I mean, I guess it just kind of depends
on who you ask.
On who you ask and what you're into. For me, when it comes to techno, like Pan Pot is my
Panpot,
oh
Yoris
my God.
Vorn,
Oh.
even Nicole Mudaber, for example. Like,
Yeah, Nicole's
she's got 500,000 followers, but I can ask 20 of my friends, "Hey, you
Right.
coming out to the show?" And they're, "Who is she? Who is she?" You know?
Right,
So
right.
it really depends on who you ask. But in my
Sure.
opinion, yeah.
All right,
I
I got
don't
another
really
one from our good friend Brian K. James, also known as Batu Music.
Hey, hey.
Wait.
Hey, what's up, Brian?
Has anyone got to DJ at a place they've always dreamed of playing? Were you nervous? How did it go? And would you do it again? And the reason he's asking because our good friend here is going to be playing in Ibiza in September in a cafe. So that is super solid. So
Nice.
Dave or Brian, we expect to see some pictures, Instagram, all that good stuff, and
Man.
record your sets, bro.
Yeah.
So
Right,
All
right.
right.
Are you kind of the closest to be able to say yes to that?
Have
Kind
I,
of the closest out of all of us. I mean, you did.
I played some pretty big stages and opened
Yeah,
for some
Number
pretty big
Fest.
people.
Nutter Center and Boma, but those
Right.
were pretty great places.
Yeah,
to play.
absolutely.
Well,
I
and you
mean,
spent how many months
Puerto-
in Puerto Vallarta? Like, that had to be pretty dope. Like,
You're literally an international touring DJ
Right, right.
there, so yeah,
I'm
that's
just
pretty
saying,
awesome.
I feel like hands down, he's probably the closest
Yeah,
to being
yeah.
able to say yes.
Yeah.
Boma and Nutter Center are pretty great places to
right.
be asked to
I
play.
played on some pretty cool stages. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the question? Say the question one more time, Mo.
just basically, have there been any dream places that you wanted to play? And if you got to play there, how was it? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I mean, I'm nervous going into a crowd of 20 people, at Therapy Cafe, but that's just me as a person. I'm always nervous going up on stage. Did I ever dream of playing in Puerto Vallarta? No. But when it happened, it was amazing. Yes, I would do it again. Yes. That's.
I think for me, it's not so much a place as it is
Yeah.
like a particular experience. Like
Mhm.
the Sasha show that you put me on for would be the one for me so far, just because it was Sasha, and I mean that's
definitely a
if I-
dream place.
yeah. If I could have picked anyone, it would have been him or Digweed,
Mhm.
and there it was. And even though Mask is just a local Dayton club, it's more than just a local Dayton
Mhm.
club. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
it's serious
experience-
business.
The experience is amazing, regardless of the stage.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I'm going to keep in my heart forever, and it had something to do with the venue, but not entirely.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, it was always like the unexpected place that I played that like really fulfilled something. Yeah, like it's, a lot of the times if I'm going into something like, oh, I can't wait to play this, often like I found myself let down or something happened and it wasn't quite the night that I wanted it to be. And
Yeah.
then there's this night that I play something that 75, 80 people are at, and it's like, wow, everyone was dancing, and man, that just recharged something. And I was kind of indifferent going into it, and I left it thinking, you know what, I wasn't expecting this, but man, this felt good.
I kind of said what you just said, that sometimes it's not the size of the venue that just makes it totally memorable. There were a few opportunities that I had that I thought was going to be amazing, even though that's detracting from the original question a little bit, where I got asked to play a really, really big rock festival for a local radio station in Columbus a couple years back, where I was playing with like huge bands, and me and my friend were like the only DJs on the whole lineup. So, but I was playing for, I have a picture of it. I mean, I have no idea how many thousands of people, but
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
it just like dwarfs every gig I have
right.
size-wise. But I just felt so disconnected from the crowd. It just didn't even really.
You've talked about that, Tony.
Yeah, it wasn't a great experience for me. Also, we were the only DJ act on this too. It's like indie rock band, folk rock band, DJs, indie rock band. And so, I mean,
And Spoon Man.
That's
I mean,
rough.
I was like trembling, and I've been DJing for eons, but like I'd never been so nervous in my life.
Sure.
And I'm just like, we're DJing and like we're just watching a whole swath of people just sitting on a hill at this outside concert venue. Like at a nightclub, people are dancing and
dark and
again, I know I'm
yeah.
detracting a little bit, but
Right,
like
right,
it just I thought it was going to be something amazing. And I did it the next year. They asked me to come back, and I was a little reluctant, and I did it for 2 years. And then the third year, I was like, I can't do it again. Yeah. So, like I said, again, I'm detracting from the question a little bit, but like I'd much rather play for 100 people who are just like
who are into it,
who are heads,
super into it. Yeah. So my favorite gigs have definitely been some of the smaller ones. So just like be careful of like chasing like these huge venues or festivals, because sometimes that's not necessarily like the most rewarding experience that you can
from
have.
Those people, like you said,
Right.
I'm the same way. I don't know that any gig in particular stands out as like, oh man, I always wanted to achieve this, or I always wanted to play this one. But like, rather, I'm always the type that like, okay, I really want to take each gig for what it is and approach it for what it is and accept it for what it is once it's done. And if it's a bad gig, then have some retrospect and look back on it and learn something from it.
Live in the moment.
But that definitely that living in the moment thing, especially when you're younger, man, like that's so important that all us old folks,
I
can.
was nervous when he asked me to play Stanton Warriors, and then I was nervous on that phone call, and then I just kind of a little bit like worked my ass off, and I was like, okay, now I got my shit together on what I want to do, and I was just like, great. I did tailor my entire set to David and Mike, and
the funny thing is, I came up to you after you were done, and I said, "Whoa, I've never heard you play like that." And
because you never heard me play like that, even that, because you weren't there. I just tailored my set.
Oh,
to you guys.
Was it?
That was Stanton Warriors.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you're dead to me.
And I'll just go ahead and echo that about location or in the feeling versus the venue and stuff like that, because I can tell you, the most rewarding set I ever did was that first one I did while I was deployed 2 years ago. And there were those 200 men and women just shaking their ass off, sweating until their crotch stinks. It was freaking amazing. I actually called Mel,
so descriptive.
And I was like almost in tears because I hadn't had that feeling since the late 90s when I had the chance to spin for that many people that loved what I was dropping for them.
Just one thing really quick. I'll make this fast. But I booked one of my favorite DJs from the UK, either late last year or earlier this year. I can't remember. And so when I picked him up from the airport, I said, how was your last show? He was on a tour, and he said, it was this mega festival. It played for thousands of people. And I'm like, oh man, here he is in Columbus, Ohio. Like, this is going to be like the biggest letdown for him. And I'm just like, we're a fun town. We love our drum and bass here. The whole time I was shaking in my boots. But to get to the point, like that night when he was playing in this little punk rock bar, I went to bring him a beer while he was playing on stage. And I'm like, are you okay? Are you having fun? And he looked at me and like with this huge grin, he said, I'm having the time of my life, because the 80 people in that room were just going crazy.
Nice.
And I mean, he was 100% genuine, and I've never felt so good. Like, it was the coolest feeling in the world. So, even a guy that's touring festivals and doing all kinds of venue, stuff like that. He was playing in this little bar in Columbus, Ohio, but every single person there was just like, going crazy, and he was like, having the time of his life. It was really, really cool.
Well, and that's an important thing, just to real quick on that, is that, not every gig is going to be the mega gig, right? Like, so if you ever do, or if you ever are lucky enough to get to that level, you got to take those 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100-person shows with the same passion as you do.
Well, that was a very important thing. He didn't mail it in Columbus, Ohio. Like, he performed like he was playing for a festival. And that's a good distinction to make, because sometimes when DJs play these smaller shows, they mail it in. They're just not as interested as if they were playing in a different city. And that really... people can sense that, and I think that was part of the reason why everyone was having such a good time, because he was so visibly engaged and enjoying himself.
Mo, real quick before we take the next question, we actually received a package from our friend Nick. And now, I promised him I'd try to get his name right this time. Nick Gavush, I think is how you say it.
Yes, he said it rhymes like the bush.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Cool. He's been in touch with us for ages now, but I could never pronounce his name properly. He's corrected me like 3 or 4 times now, so hopefully I got it right that time. But he sent in this message. It says, "Happy 100th episode. Enclosed as a token of my appreciation, you will find some sticker swag I made using my equipment and supplies for my wife's custom t-shirt and personalized gift business. I made a couple of different Passionate DJ stickers and logos in both black and white, as well as your names in 2 different fonts, which are sized for use on the edge of your controllers, but you can put them wherever you like. I tried to pick fonts that I felt embodied your personal brands. I hope you enjoy them. I may not be a particularly good bedroom DJ, but I really enjoy your show. I find the topics and discussions enlightening and entertaining and enjoy learning about all aspects of the trade. I hope your show enjoys continued success and is as much of an inspiration to others as it has been to me. Thanks, Nick.
Awesome.
That is super awesome. So thank you, Nick. We've got these great little passionate DJ stickers.
Very
They're
cool.
hard to see, and podcast logo and all kinds of cool goodies here. So
Wow,
thank you
very
so much
cool.
for that. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. We have time for another question or two.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's go with this one from Dub Master Blue Bear. And he's just curious to know if he's just curious to know if anybody's using open source software to produce or DJ. And
Nope.
are most of us using Macs, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Recent
for DJing,
convert.
yes. Production, no. The only freeware type stuff that I use is Audacity and stuff like that. For,
Yeah, I use
for,
Audacity too.
Yeah.
quick raw audio
In
edits.
terms of
but-
DAWs, there's
True.
like Reaper, which is really community driven. But I
Yeah.
don't have any experience with it. I use Ableton Live,
Yeah,
but I
Ableton,
know Reaper is one of the more popular. Bitwig is the other. Bitwig and Reaper are like the two big open source production softwares.
Yeah.
In terms of DJing,
Virtual
I
DJ
could-
still has a free tier, right? That's pretty functional, I think. No?
I don't know.
There's
Was
a
it
few of them,
freeware or open source? Was the
Yeah, he
question.
did say open source.
Yeah, well,
He
well
did say open
Dubmaster,
source.
I mean, he's like going open source all the way because he's using a Linux computer as his
Oh,
OS.
okay.
And our door has its DAW and mix for DJing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have any experience with much
Yeah,
of
I don't have the
that stuff.
patience for like being a part of a community. I'm not a programmer. I'm not like what? What did I say? No, no.
In context of the yeah, I got you.
Trip knew what I meant. But like in terms of like an online community, like open source kind of thing, I just don't at this point in my life. I'm not like a power user. I'm not a programmer. I don't like to. I just want it to work, and
Yeah.
I want to be able
Yeah.
to trust it.
I do
So,
like nerding out with stuff
yeah.
like that, but I don't like relying on it for anything I'm doing for performance or creation.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to performance. Like, I have to trust my equipment and my software when I'm,
Yeah.
not that I'm playing these huge gigs or anything like that, for the most part, but like I had a couple bad experiences using the first version of Final Scratch, however long ago that was. I was playing a festival for Disco Donnie in New Orleans, and Final Scratch crashed on me in the middle of my set, and like I thought I was going to throw up. I was so
I
nervous.
used Final Scratch. It was a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it was the worst. You had to like calibrate the needles before you. Yeah, it's just so like I'm
Yeah.
done with that. Like I just want it to work. So, but more power to the people who want to do open source stuff.
All right, we have time for one or maybe two more, depending
Yep,
on.
we got one last one from Sean Freeman. He says, I DJ almost every week, and now in every usual 7 times a week. He got to start off by trading his time for a membership to a gym, and he was DJing there at a pool on the Fridays. Said business actually went crazy based off his exposure with high schools and city events and corporate gigs. He was asking, what were some of the tricks that we used when we first used to get started in order to get a name, get a foothold?
To get gigs?
To get gigs, correct.
In terms of like DJ as a service type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me it was total word of mouth because I mean, I had never even considered like weddings or corporate gigs or anything like that until somebody approached me with it, and then I was like, the artist side of me was still like, oh no, that would be like selling out or whatever, right? But then when they said, oh, well, we'll pay you $700, and I'm like, oh. Well, yeah, sure, I'm there. Right?
When you're Vega Boys, I got your Vega Boys.
Right, exactly. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think some people are reluctant to say, hey, if you like the job that I did, please recommend me to other people.
Right.
Like, just you have to be upfront about that.
yeah.
Like, because sometimes if you don't say that, sometimes that little bug doesn't go into their head, that person's head when they're talking to somebody. And, I do that with my own personal business. But with DJing, you really need to say, like, hey, if you thought I did a great job, if you know anybody that you think that could use me or that would enjoy my services, like, please recommend me. Absolutely do that.
And even though I wasn't the best at it, I didn't particularly enjoy it any more than being a performing DJ. But, if it brought in extra cash and I had everything there to do it, okay, great. So,
Right.
that word of mouth thing was absolutely instrumental in keeping the next thing coming.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone should. I think that's a great question. I think everyone has an answer.
Yeah, I think so I do more club than mobile.
Well, you did Night Owl with him, right?
I did Night Owl with Tommy, my buddy Tommy.
But I mean, you guys were playing at the same time, weren't you?
I don't think so. No.
Oh.
But that is where I started though was Night Owl,
Yeah.
and that would have been mid 2000s, so 05, 06, something like basically when everything was dead in Dayton is when I decided to get into it. So for me, it was three things. One was kind of trying to practice what I preach here and just basically making myself valuable to people in whatever way I could that were involved. So I figured out who people like Tony were and said, how can I help? And kept on doing that until I annoyed them into letting me help. So that was one.
Make me sound like
And that's
an
pretty much
asshole.
how.
Not you specifically, sorry. I
So
just,
much about relationships than how good you are.
yeah.
And that's
yeah.
pretty much how I got involved. I started off as a listener, and I started annoying the hell out of Dave. And then, I made Trip move in next door to me. I started cooking Tony all kinds of fucking awesome gourmet meals. Yeah.
Read that
Boom.
question again. Read that one more time.
I'm not even done answering me. I'm on number one of three.
I just don't know what you're talking about, Dave.
I have one question in 27 parts.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay,
that's such a
so-
good question, though.
Yeah, it is.
I
a good
DJ almost every week, and now usually several times a week. I got my start by trading off a $1,000 membership at our local swim club for 5 DJing Fridays a summer.
Yeah, God.
Business instantly went crazy from events, high schools, and now city events, all from the time I volunteered at the swim club. What was y'all's trick to getting gigs when you first started?
That is
My trade-off is still paying off from all the swim club gigs that I
That's
had.
a
It's not
fantastic
really a
question.
trick. It's just networking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like a lot of people don't know that that's even like a thing, let alone that that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Meet people,
Well, I mean,
talk to
like
people.
even from the performance standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, even from the performance standpoint, like, when I was not good and just starting out, I did have a set of techniques and a DJM 500. Well, that will get you a gig just about anywhere back in the 90s. So like,
Yeah.
for anybody who's sitting on some CDJ 2000 Nexus 2s and a DJM 900 Nexus 2 now, like, yeah, that will throw some weight around because a promoter would rather book you as an opener than to go pay somebody a couple $100 to rent that stuff.
Which, by the way, is
Hey, you can open and just leave your gear here.
Well, right. I mean, but it at
That
least
was
gets
so
you
common.
started somewhere. And that, I mean, so back, when it was turntables and a mixer, that's how I was able to get myself going. And as I got better, then, the gigs.
Oh no, I mean, I guess
came
I
without having to use
started
that.
EDM Tuesday on a trick. I was just like, hey, I just want to do this.
Just like you,
Well,
turning
that was going to
tricks.
be my second one was I went
You little shit.
I went somewhere that wasn't doing anything and said,
Yeah.
how about
Yeah, I mean,
this?
but I was just like, the thing was, I was going to your Sunday Fun Day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I was just like, hey, I'm not doing anything. I would like to do an EDM night here. How about this? Don't pay me until the bar makes $1,000.
Mhm.
Once the bar makes $1,000, then start paying
Then
me.
we'll talk. Yeah.
And they thought they had me over. And within 3 weeks, but I was like, give me 8 weeks. If I don't do it in 8 weeks, you can just fire me. I did it in 3 weeks. And that was it. And then we're like, okay, we're going to pay you. He goes, Jesus Christ, this is crazy. Back then, they didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah.
Was it one of those things where like
Right, they didn't
it
even
worked
know it
and then
was a
you were like,
thing.
now what?
No, I was like, well, and then they were like, okay, well, you made $1,000. What do we pay you? And I was like, well. So, but I mean, I guess that's a trick. But I mean, that's less about DJing.
It's initiative.
That's less about DJing. That's more like promoting.
Yeah, it's
if
a little bit of business prowess.
As
I
far
mean,
as DJing goes, what I did, I went in there and I was like, hey, give me 9 to 10. That's it. That's all I want. I have no idea what
Yeah.
I'm doing. I have no equipment. I have no gear. I've never even played before. Just give me 9 to 10. Let me see what I can do.
You hear
And he
this,
was
kids?
like,
If
okay.
John Chappell can do it,
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
One that might
Then we
sound a
boiled
little
down to hustle.
Yeah.
One that might sound a little more like a trick was I made myself a little bit more visible with Passionate DJ. I mean, that was part of the creating this brand, was so that, hey, I've got something to say. I feel like I've got something to contribute here. And so that was kind of part of, and that wasn't the entire motivation, but it has definitely helped. So it's something that's related to my DJing that's not my DJing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that would be one for me. Mike, you have something?
I would just say real quick, be good, be kind, be patient.
Right.
Be ready to hear some no's, power through no's, and then just...
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to add professional onto that because I went through a period.
That's great advice. Be prepared to hear no's.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that to be professional because I went through a phase like most young people do, where I thought I was the shit, and if you told me no, well then you're just a piece of crap, and then of course then that's the kind of stuff that starts inner crew drama and all, just a bunch of crap like that. Like, just be professional. Realize that as much as we all are passionate about our artistry, that there's still a business to be run, and just because what you bring to the table doesn't work for somebody else, that doesn't mean that it won't work for somebody else.
You're dealing with someone with a program.
That's right.
That has something in mind, and it might not work out,
right.
But the next guy might.
Right.
Okay, hey guys, it's 6 o'clock. We got to wrap it up.
Well,
that was
hold
awesome.
on.
Before we go, yes, we're doing a shot.
What?
Are doing a shot.
While you're passing those out, our final announcement is that Mr. Trip Turlington has been working hard on our new theme song. So we are going to have a.
I've been working.
You had.
I did work very hard.
You have worked.
So can I tell
everybody kind
the
of get behind the booth?
What are we doing? What are we doing a shot of?
This is a lemonade flavored vodka.
Oh, woohoo!
You would have had me if you would have said limoncello.
Which camera are we on here, Mel?
We're on a team.
Have your names written where you sit.
You like that? Yeah.
That was for Trip's benefit.
And on that note, as an outsider, well done, guys.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Hey,
wait, we gotta wait.
I'm getting my shot, yo.
come on over here, Mel.
Mo and Mel.
Real quick, thank you guys all so much for helping me put this together. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
let's do it again
No, it's
in
cool. You owe us.
a while. Let's do it again. And yeah, it is weird. Guys, here's to the next 100.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheers. I'm tapping.
Shot.
This has been the Passionate DJ Podcast. We're going to send you out with the new theme and then a voicemail by our friend, DJ Serato. You guys take care. Thank you so much. Keep on spinning.
I love you
It's been a while since I reached out to the Passionate DJs, Bomb Diggity Flex Squad, aka David, Trip, Tony, and Mo. This is DJ Serato checking in from Phoenix, Arizona, and Serato is actually my last name, but with 2 R's instead of 1. It's always been a pleasure listening to the podcast. As a 40-year-old man who got back into DJing about 2.5 years ago, I've been really trying to get it right this time around. Getting it right the first time would have been nice, but it's my mistakes and my failures and the accompanying embarrassment that are making my second attempt at DJing so much more fun. It's mobile DJing that I do, like weddings, proms, sweet 16s, birthdays, corporate events, and sometimes I DJ at like bars and clubs. But I wanted to share a few things with your audience. You know, the audience where we're like all as one. We all share this passion for DJing in one form or another, all on our own unique ways, which makes listening to the podcast pretty cool. Thank you, David, and thanks to your wife for supporting you in your endeavor of not only creating the Passionate DJ, but also supporting all of the countless things that come with it as you continue marching forward in this really cool movement you started. And thank you, Trip, Tony, and Mo, but a special thanks to your spouses for putting up with all the supporting decisions you made to make this podcast worth it, and all the other Passionate DJ related stuff. So yeah, shout out to the wives and spouses, you know, for just supporting you guys as you do this. You know, my mom, may she rest in peace, she told me, you know, behind every successful man is a good woman. I translate her words as cross-gender and friendship related, where we can all be successful on our own, but if we accomplish things on our own, we can do so much more when someone's helping and supporting us along the way. It's not easy being the spouse of a DJ or a producer or event coordinator or promoter or anyone in this industry. So I just wanted to say thank you to them. But whether it's a husband, a wife, or a spouse, or a friend, or community, we should all have a paradigm of working together to make each other better. So like lone wolf style, that's a good way to go, as it represents your independence, you know? But if you guys want to make like leaps and bounds, you have to work together with others to accomplish a mutual goal. Like working together represents codependency. But to get to codependency, first you have to master your own dependency. Work on being independent by like establishing goals for yourself. Small daily goals and then like small weekly goals. And keep your word to yourself in accomplishing these tiny goals. Then work on making like slightly bigger goals, daily and weekly. It's tough to accomplish goals that we make to ourselves because no one knows about them. It's hella easy to give up on a goal that no one's looking at. But it's these goals, you guys, that are like the ones that no one knows about, that are the absolute most important goals to accomplish. So it's like sometimes we have to say no to others so that we can say yes to ourselves. And accomplishing your personal goals will give you independence. And so that's where you need to get at. Because once you feel independent enough, that's when you should start working with others on being codependent. Working together with others will make you and the people you work with more successful in a much shorter period of time. Of course, there'll always be people that you come across and who don't share this paradigm, and you'll get burned in the process one way or another. And that's okay. If you're not making mistakes, you're not doing enough. So make those mistakes. And the people you work with in your attempt to be codependent may not have mastered being independent themselves yet. And that's okay too. You need to try working with others to find out if you work well with them or not. Anyway, I know this is long and whatever, but, you know, I agree with David and the Get Down crew, you know, Tony, Trip, and Mo. I share their ideology and their passion for DJing. As for myself, I have a regular day job. I do accounting. I have a wife. It's my second marriage. I have 4 kids, 2 dogs, and a mortgage, 2 vehicles, a DJ trailer, and everything else. My point is, each second of every day is a calculated step for me. Right now, it's Saturday at 10 a.m. I should be cutting the grass right now, or like hanging out with my wife and my kids, or like even practicing my DJ skills, or even beefing up my online presence as a DJ, or following up on leads, you know? But I really wanted to take the time to write this message. So a lot of people say they don't have time for things. You know, well, I got news for you guys. We all have time. It's just a matter of how we prioritize our time. I believe in the passionate DJ movement and what it represents, which is why I've taken about 2 hours to type this up, re-edit it, reread it, and then now even just leave a voice message all in one shot here. I have so much more I want to share, and I'm here to help anyone who wants it. So if you want the help, hit me up. I didn't think about how to put this on the message, but find me on Passionate DJ. I'll be trying to make more of a presence on there, and I really just want to help people out, you know, genuinely. And I don't necessarily love a lot of things, you guys. So for me to say I love this movement, you know, says a lot. So gentlemen and your spouses, thanks for pouring a lot of your time into this. Cheers, DJ Serato, Phoenix, Arizona. Peace.